Awesome, Mike. Good deal. So we're going to kick things off here. And for those of you joining us, yes, this will be recorded. So if you miss something, don't catch something, want to listen to something, you'll get an email with the recording, with a link to the recording. But so like I was saying, this is our Roof Talk for January of 2021. We're going to be talking and covering about Roofstock Cloudhouse and the Bring Your Own Property program. So I've got some very special guests with me here tonight. I will start off by just showing a legal disclaimer. This is not investment advice. Go ahead and read through this at your leisure, some nice relaxing evening reading. So I am Michael Albaum. I'm the head coach with the Roofstock Academy. And if you're not familiar with what that is, we're going to be talking about that a little bit at the end and actually have a pretty special giveaway for everybody here on the webinar. So in my past life, I worked as a professional fire protection engineer in the commercial property insurance industry. I'm an active real estate investor for the past 10 years. I personally have experience purchasing single family homes, condos, small, medium-sized multifamily, double net and triple net commercial properties. And I've really specialized over the last several years in multifamily value add real estate investing. So Matt, do you want to get to the next slide here? Oh, Leandra, you're up.
I'm up. Hey everyone, I'm Leandra. I am the Roofstock Valuation and MLS Underwriting Manager currently. Some of the names, some of our attendees, their names are familiar. So some of you have received emails from me regarding to maybe some BYOPs that have been submitted. So it's nice to see your names and see you guys on the webinar. Previously I started at Roofstock as a pricing analyst, but also worked as a valuation analyst for another lender, another broker. I'm currently licensed in California, licensed appraiser in California and Texas. I'm a licensed broker in California, and most valuation experience in single family rental properties, condos, small income, foreclosures, land, and commercial properties.
Awesome. And Matt?
So I told you earlier, I'm from Athens, Georgia. I have been in the real estate industry my entire career of 20 years. If you can see my video and that photo, you can tell that photo was probably from about the second year. Just like any good real estate professional, I use a 15-year-old photo. But I'm licensed in 6 states currently, 4 here in the Southeast and 2 that, as Michael said earlier, I threw a dart at the map and picked in Iowa and Pennsylvania. So I have done everything from residential to commercial to owning a property management company with about 5,000 beds under management. So I've touched multiple facets of the industry, and I've been with Roofstock for a little over 2 years.
Awesome. So the agenda for this presentation, we're going to talk first and foremost a little bit about Roofstock as a company, high level, and then we're going to dig into Roofstock Cloudhouse rental calculator and what that is for those of you who might not be familiar with it. And then we're going to talk about we're going to go ahead and do a live demo, test drive of the Cloudhouse program and show everybody how it works. Then we're going to do a walkthrough of the Bring Your Own Property program, also known as BYOP. We're going to talk about how it works, and then we're going to wrap things up with Q&A. So we've got a lot of slides to cover, a lot of great information to cover tonight. We're going to try to get to all the questions at the end. I'll be able to stick around for a few minutes after the hour. Hopefully, Matt and Leandra, you can join me as well. But if we don't get to your question, we'll have a contact information at the end of this presentation where you can send us your questions if we didn't have a chance to get to them. So Matt, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about Roofstock at a high level.
Okay, sure. And like Leandra, I recognize several of the names. So for those of you guys that have bought with us before and have seen this, just bear with us for a few minutes so we can welcome the company, or introduce the company, I guess, a little better to some of our newer guests. But Roofstock in general, we are the leading marketplace for investing in single-family rental homes using technology to transform the way real estate is bought and sold. Our goal is to make real estate investing stock market simple, hence the name Roofstock. And we have, I can tell you guys just from being on board, having come from the traditional real estate world, the technology in this company is it's astonishing what they have put together here. I've been really excited to be a part of it and can't wait to see where this is headed. But the mission of the company is to make ownership of investment property radically accessible, cost-effective, and simple. That has not always been the case. Accessible, typically these type properties have been limited to people who live nearby. Most of these transactions happen With local investors, people feel limited to their nearby market where returns and rates just are not attractive, and we're trying to make it such that you're comfortable investing in other markets where you can meet your investment goals by making this technology and information available to you through the website. The vision. The founders of the company all had experience in the institutional world of single-family rental space, and they were very passionate about this. And the goal is to create a world where everyone from Wall Street to Main Street has an equal opportunity to build wealth through real estate. Hasn't always been the case. Most of the tools and analytics that you have access to through our platform have historically been available to institutional guys who have an unfair advantage historically, but now we are making those same tools available to the public, to our members. Just a quick snapshot into the technology. We're going to do a much deeper dive as this goes on, but this is a sample of a property card you might see on our site. So if you go into the website, you're browsing around properties, you're going to have access to all of what you see here, but just a few of the highlights. Proprietary neighborhood scores. We've developed a system bringing in tons of data from multiple sources to score neighborhoods. We're using school scores, crime statistics, things of that nature to pull together neighborhood scores so that you from hundreds of miles away can analyze a neighborhood on the other side of the country if you'd like to, something that obviously you can't do, again, limiting. Most of these properties are purchased by people that live nearby because they have access to drive over and see it. In this case, we're making that same information available to you from anywhere. Underwriting tools, estimating cash flow according to assumptions and your input. Again, we're bringing in data from numerous sources, but we're also allowing you to input your own assumptions. If you do not agree with ours, you can move those around, and it will give you calculators that output rates and returns that you would need to know before making a decision. We've got a diligence vault on these property listings where you'll find things like inspection reports, leases, ledgers, anything like that that might be available for the property will be there for you to review. The data integration with vendors. We have vendors across the country in the markets where we operate, everything from inspectors, lenders, property managers, attorneys, everything you need to have a smooth transaction. We've got all of those in place and vetted already in the markets. E-signatures, everything we do is going to be online based, so you will talk to real people, but we have the technology in place to handle the entire transaction online. And then the AI machine learning incorporated, again, just keep saying the same thing, but the data points are coming in from all over. Our systems are learning daily and updating, making it the most relevant and updated information available.
And I'm just noticing this particular property, I thought there were deer on the front lawn, but I think that those are fake. So this picture must have been taken around the holidays, or it's a recent picture from this year. So now I'm going to talk about the Roofstock Cloudhouse rental calculator. And actually, we'll do a test drive of that as we get going here. So for those of you who are just joining us, this is a presentation. It will be recorded. You will have access to the recording after the fact. So just kind of hang in there if you missed the beginning, and welcome, glad you could join us. So like Matt was talking about, currently and in the past, it's been really hard for buyers to identify a property in an unfamiliar market. Unless you've been able to go there, or you know somebody there who can kind of be your eyes and ears on your behalf. This has been really tough in the past. And also to efficiently and accurately evaluate a property's financial valuation and investment potential, if you don't know the market, this is really, really difficult to do. And then lastly, acquire and manage these properties either directly or through a local partner, again, because we're not there, has traditionally been very, very difficult. So one of the nice things that Roofstock has done, like Matt was talking about, is it brings institutional grade analytics to you, the end user, at your fingertips and for free. So we have the do-it-yourself sample investor Excel sheet on the left, which if anyone has ever made an Excel spreadsheet may have looked something like this. I know mine personally has in the past. So what Roofstock does is all those things that Matt has touched on with regard to the expenses. We can input repairs and maintenance, HOA expenses if relevant, property taxes. We have all kinds of information on the tenant. If it's a tenant occupied property, we'll get the vacancy factor, we'll get lease data, We can also incorporate loan payments, reserve amounts, market rents, and then see about the neighborhood score, like Matt was talking about as well. So the Cloudhouse calculator looks like this on the home screen. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and do a walkthrough test drive here in just a minute. And so there's a link at the bottom here to this site. And so it's www.roofstock.com/cloudhouse. And basically what you're going to do is input an address, and any address for a property that's on the MLS. Or Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, you can actually do properties that are not listed for sale, right? You can do any address in the country?
You can. I plugged in my own personal residence just to check it, and it was accurate on all points, and it's not for sale. So any address in the country, single family, it will not pull up condominiums or apartment buildings, commercial properties, but any single family address should come up.
Perfect. So you go ahead and plug in the address. And for anyone who's familiar with the Roofstock site, this kind of listing picture might look pretty familiar to you, with the purchase price, the down payment, rental amount, neighborhood score, a bunch of this information, as well as kind of a financial picture based on some of these assumptions that the algorithm is pulling together. So if you're not familiar with the Roofstock listing, I mean, this looks quite similar to what you would see on Roofstock, except we just plugged in a random address, like Matt was saying, for any property in the country. So it's a really powerful tool. And if my slides can work here, it's a really powerful tool to get a pretty good handle on the financial picture, again, of any property that you want to analyze. We'll get access to cash flow, cap rate, cash on cash, gross yield, total return, and then annual return over a 5-year period. And this is just an example property, but this is the type of analytics that everybody now has access to at their fingertips. So like Matt was mentioning, we have the neighborhood rating. So it's a really powerful algorithm that normalizes neighborhood data across the markets and enables you to compare investment properties on an even footing. So we can take different markets and kind of compare them almost in an apples to apples comparison, because the algorithm equalizes that across different markets, which ordinarily is quite difficult to do. It's tough to compare where Matt is in Athens, Georgia, to an investment market out in Texas. So, but the neighborhood score helps us to do that. And so we have comprehensive data all in one click, totally free, like we were talking about. You can search easily. The data is instantaneous, and then we can personalize and customize the reports that come out and some of the data that's input as well. And so this is really valuable for anyone that's looking to get a home's estimated value. So real estate investors, I think the vast majority of us would use it for that as that function. But in talking to homeowners too, so if you want to consider renting your primary out, moving out of your home and renting it, that could be a great tool to utilize as well, just to get a snapshot of what the value might be and what the rentability might be. And then for realtors and agents, they can run any property, again, in the country, single family home in the country, and get an idea of how they might be able to market it and what it might be worth. So it's really a very handy, useful tool for a number of different individuals across a number of different professions. So I'm going to pop over into the live demo. It's pretty short just because it's such an easy tool to use. So I've got it queued up here. It's roofstock.com/cloudhouse. And so I grabbed just a totally random property in Atlanta, this 257 Branberry Drive Southeast. So if I plug that in here, Cloudhouse recognizes the address, and all I'm going to do is hit analyze. And it's going to ask me, okay, is this the year that it's built? And this is the size. Is this what the property I'm trying to analyze? And yes, it is. And it's thinking, doing its thing. And so boom, it's going to spit out, this is the Google Street View. We don't have any property specific picture, but it gives us the Zestimate of the property. If we can say, if we're going to put a 25% down payment on this thing and it rents at $13.50, here's our cap rate, cash flow, appreciation, gross yield numbers. We can click over here to the financials. After looking at some of this high level data, we see it's a 2-star neighborhood. We don't have a school score rating, but we have a map view. We get the bed, bath count, property size, lot size. And if I click on the financials, this brings up, again, what you might be very familiar with seeing on Roofstock. We have our gross yield, cap rate, cash on cash return, and our annual return. And as we start manipulating some of these values, we'll see real-time updates. So if we were to say, you know what, I'm not going to put down 25%, I'm going to put down 45%. Let's see how all of these numbers change. Our cash on cash return has changed, as has our monthly cash flow. And if this was a property you were interested in purchasing all cash, well, we can run that analysis as well, just as we would be able to on Roofstock. So we see now that our cash on cash jumped up to 826, our cash on cash is down at 7.6. So really powerful slider bars that make it really easy to run through an analysis fairly quickly. For those of you who might not be familiar, this custom tab over here is going to bring up our year one pro forma. And for anyone who's not familiar with the term pro forma, it's just a fancy word for budget. It's a forward-looking budget projection of a property's income and the expenses. And so these are all customizable. We can manipulate them and change them based on what we anticipate that property to be, or the expenses or the income that property is likely to incur. And we can also toggle between dollars or percentage of annual rent. And so if we said, oh, actually the leasing fee is going to be $500 annually, we can simply toggle over to dollars, update that expense, and then as we come over here and hit apply, we see that all of our numbers have changed as a result of that. So again, a really handy way to analyze properties, and fairly quickly as well, once you have a good handle on what these numbers and what these expenses are likely to be. And again, this is a cost projection that Roofstock put together and a rent estimate. Talking to local property managers is really the best way to get a handle on the local lay of the land. So I'm going to check and see if we have any questions here before we move on. All right, so will comps be available? Will comps be available? Mark, great question. So in Cloudhouse, I don't believe that we have comps pulled. Leandra, is that right? There's no comps, right?
That's correct. Unfortunately, there are no comps available. And it basically is just, it's taking the Zestimate number and using that to kind of generate all the rest of the financial pieces, but using the custom tool. Let's say you know that something's different, maybe you have your opinion of what the value actually is, or you know, your own comp search, then you know, you would be able to kind of get a better understanding of that. But unfortunately, there's no comps provided with the Cloudhouse tool.
So a kind of a nice workaround is if you go on a Zillow, there's a way to pull comps using the yellow tab, and it just says that's the sold tab, so we can see what properties have sold in the area, and we can set up a pretty tight filter and set up parameters around what it is we're looking for specifically in that area, and that'll give us a pretty good indication of what comps are in the area. All righty. I'm going to jump back over here to the presentation. And Nicolette's asking, where does this estimate come from? It's from Zillow. Yeah, so this estimate is the Zillow estimate of a property's value. All right. And now we're going to talk about the Bring Your Own Property program. And Leandra, I'm going to kick it over to you.
Awesome. So I'm really excited that we started with the Roofstock Cloudhouse calculator, because that's really a good first step when you find a property that you are interested in purchasing through Roofstock, because like Michael talked about, it's going to give you the neighborhood score. It's going to give you an idea of what the cap rate looks like, cash flow. And then from there, you would want to input the property into our landing page, and we'll go through that here shortly. Because to you, initially looking at the Roofstock Cloudhouse calculator, it's like, okay, this looks like a great property that I'd like to purchase. So let me take the next step and purchase this through Roofstock. So where can you find some of the properties to submit through the Bring Your Own Property program? So although Roofstock has tons and tons of listings, we don't have all of them, right? So if you come across a property that might be listed in Zillow or Redfin and has an MLS ID, or you might have access to a local MLS in your area, or something of that nature, so long as it has an MLS ID currently, the Bring Your Own Property program would be able to recognize that listing, and we would be able to underwrite the property. So your local MLS, Trulia, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com are sources where you can locate properties, and not just in your area like we talked about, you know, in anywhere across the country where in the markets that we're operating the Bring Your Own Property program in, and we'll list those out here in the next slide, I think, or one of the upcoming slides.
Yeah, so James, I just saw your question. So this one is directly answering that question.
Awesome. What was the question?
Oh no, so I'm telling James, so he was asking, is there a way to transfer all the Cloudhouse information or Cloudhouse properties into the BYOP?
Yes, perfect. Yes, we're going right there. So once you identified that property as a good investment property, then you would go to the Bring Your Own Property landing page on roofstock.com, and you would enter the property address. And I think we have the markets listed, the 14 markets that we're currently operating in are listed there. And then if you were interested in a property that wasn't in any of those markets, you would receive an automated email letting you know that it's outside of those 14. But this is what the landing page looks like. Again, and once you get a Bring Your Own Property submission that's approved, you would get a private link that looks like the Cloudhouse calculator page with all the financial data, and it would give you the option to submit an offer. Were we going to walk through? No, we weren't going to walk through this.
No, so we'll go. Yeah, so we'll show everybody the landing page, and we'll scroll down to the bottom and show everybody how to submit a property and what that looks like.
Awesome.
So do you want to talk about the guarantees? Yeah, that come with the BYOP?
Definitely. So one of the perks, and one of the things that I really appreciate about the Bring Your Own Property program is that although it's not a Roofstock certified exclusive listing, we do provide the 30-day money back guarantee and the lease up guarantee. So, I mean, why is that attractive? Because on vacant properties, we guarantee that you'll sign a lease on your rent-ready home within 45 days, or we will cover a percentage of the rent up to 1 year. So start investing or start, receiving that income right away, pretty much. And yeah, I don't know, anything else to add, Michael or Matt, on that one?
I mean, I was going to ask Matt, you've been in the industry a long time. Have you seen anything that exists similar to this, Matt?
No, I haven't. And even within the 2 years at Roofstock, I've seen this guarantee, either of the guarantees actually enforced or requested of a buyer. Only a handful of times Roofstock does follow through with it, so long as the terms and conditions are met. So I can vouch for that. But I will tell you, over time, you get to a point where this guarantee is less and less important because you start feeling more comfortable about making your own investment decisions and the partners you've got in place to lease it up for you, things of that nature. But early on, especially first-time investors, especially out-of-town first-time investors, this is something you're not going to find elsewhere, as far as I've seen anyway.
Yeah.
Opportunity to sell the home back if it doesn't work for you. I've not seen anything like that in the industry.
I always joke, I wish this had been around when I first started investing. I would have felt so much more secure, because that was for sure my biggest concern is, what if nobody rents this property? Now I'm stuck with all these expenses, and with that lease up guarantee, a lot of that fear I think would go away for a lot of folks.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add to that, Leandra and Michael, just as someone on the inside who sees these processed and seeing how they're whether or not the guarantee is issued, the process behind that, Roofstock is analyzing these and determining whether or not a guarantee is issued with the full knowledge that they may be buying it back. So you can rest assured we're not trying to sell you on some inflated return because ultimately we may end up back with the property. So just keep that in mind as you're determining whether or not you trust our analytics. We're doing it for you, but also with the knowledge that it's something we may end up back with if we're not really accurate on it.
That's a great point. And Matt, we just got a question from Reza, and he's asking, so I bring a property he's interested in, and you act as my buyer's agent and broker. Is that correct?
So in the 14 markets where this program is offered, we have broker partners that are local and on the ground in those markets. They have been vetted by us. That's actually what my job is primarily, is to manage the broker network. So we hire or partner with and train those agents, make sure they're investment quality and have experience in this realm of the investment world, and make sure they're familiar with their local market and know the neighborhoods in and out. So you will be paired with an agent that we vetted in that local market to help you through the transaction.
Perfect. So Leandra, do you want to talk to everybody about the inspection report and kind of what that looks like?
So I don't know if anyone has seen the Roofstock inspection report on some of our Roofstock listings, but basically it's the same thing. For the Bring Your Own Property program, we don't automatically order the inspection report, but we do, however, when the property enters contract, then Roofstock will pay for the home inspection while the property is in escrow. So super important, definitely another value add to this program is that you'll get to see an inspection report before actually closing on the home.
And then as a result of the inspection report, can a buyer go back and renegotiate with the seller the purchase price?
Matt?
I'll jump in. Yes, they can for sure. That's the intent of when the contracts are drawn up, they're going to include, unless you decide otherwise or to forego it, almost all of these will include an inspection or due diligence contingency period, which is from the time of offer. You'll have a set number of days that's negotiated between you and the seller for how long you have to get an inspection report back, review it, and renegotiate if you feel necessary, or if the report it comes back in a way that you feel you were misled or it's not what you thought you were getting. You can ask for repairs. You can ask for credits or allowances based on what you find. But yes, you will not have any money obligated or going hard, as they say in the industry, until you have reviewed an inspection report on the property.
Okay, and so that was going to be my follow-up question, is if the seller and I, if I'm a buyer, can't come to an agreement on the price as a result of the inspection report findings, am I able to walk away for free, or is there a cost that I've now incurred because of that?
Yeah, in the beginning, you'll be asked, and this is just for anyone who's done a real estate transaction, you'll know that you're going to be asked to put some earnest money up just to prove you're serious and in good faith on moving forward with the purchase. It is refundable for some period of time, so long as it's negotiated in the contract, which we always include in the template contract. But yes, if you withdraw within your contingencies that are outlined in the contract, your money is refundable in almost every scenario. Again, you can negotiate anything in a contract. So if you agree to as is language, you're not going to be able to come back and ask for your money back. But the way we're going to put forth the template document for you to move forward on, we're going to recommend that you ask for a due diligence or inspection contingency period.
Perfect. So Leandra, here's your market slide.
Awesome, there they are. And some of these actually just came on board recently. Matt's been working really hard trying to get more brokers signed up and on board. So I believe in addition to these 14 markets, we have several more coming soon. So keep an eye on that. We'll update the landing page with new markets as they come on board. And yeah, this is what we have currently.
Awesome. So maybe you can give us just a high-level overview. We'll walk through these slides here about really how it works and how somebody would utilize the BYOP program.
Right. This is a big one. People always ask, so why didn't mine get approved, or how does this work? What are you guys looking at? So once the property comes in, I'm looking at photos. We're looking at the neighborhood score. So again, that's why looking at the Roofstock Cloudhouse calculator is super important, because once you see the neighborhood score is a 2 and above, you're like, okay, I know it's not gonna be denied for neighborhood score if it was a 2 or higher. And then what's important about that is, like Matt mentioned, is because we offer the Roofstock buyback guarantee, we want to move forward with properties that we would be able to resell in the event that we had to buy a property back. We want these to be rent ready as well. So properties that appear to need repairs, or if there's repairs noted in the listing comments, then those are the type of properties that will not get approved. So we just want these properties to be strong rental properties based on the returns. So, you typically a 5% cap or higher tends to be more desirable for buyers. So we try to focus on those properties. If a property had a 2% cap rate, it's not as attractive for a buyer. So with those things in mind, those are the properties that we want to look for and we want to approve. And again, you'll see all that in the Roofstock Cloudhouse calculator if you use that tool before submitting the BYOP property.
So properties on the MLS that note TLC or contractor special probably aren't good fits then for the program?
Correct. Definitely contractor special. I've seen some fixers come through, and I really wish we could, but again, because we want to just have that Roofstock guarantee apply, those types of properties wouldn't qualify, just because they need to be rent ready, because we're going to apply the rent guarantee as well as the buyback guarantee.
Perfect. So that's a great thing to note for all you BRRRR investors out there, all you value add investors. If it's going to be some kind of physical value add, probably not a good fit for the BYOP program.
Yeah, one caveat, Michael, I'll throw in, it's not ideal for the BYOP program. You're likely going to get an email back saying it didn't qualify. That means we can't certify it or put our guarantees on it. It doesn't mean we can't assist you with the purchase. So we have agents in all of those markets that we've vetted to be investment property agents. We still have other contacts, attorneys, lenders, inspectors and such. So we can assist. If you're a value add type investor, it's not the sweet spot of what we do, just being in full disclosure there. But we do have investors in those markets that we have vetted, and we can still add value to your process there, in other words.
Fantastic. Great point, Matt.
I think Matt was going to talk quickly about what happens after a bring your own property is approved, and after the buyer receives the approval email with the Roofstock private link, what happens next?
Okay, sure. So the property you submit, you're going to get an email back, like Leandra said. It's going to ultimately be a it was approved or it wasn't approved response. If your property was approved for the guarantees and it was certified by Roofstock and meets the criteria, like Leandra said, you'll have a private link, which means it does not go live on our website. So if you submit the property, you're the only one that gets the result back. But that link will give you a full property card like we reviewed earlier with all the details for the property and the scoring that we saw, and you'll have a make offer option on that page. So you can make an offer straight from there. When you click on make offer, it's going to ask you a series of questions, obviously the price, how you're buying, whether it's an individual or entity name, financing or cash, just a series of questions that allow us to understand how, essentially how to prepare an offer. Offer would be, you'd be paired with one of our vetted agents in that specific market who can answer questions for you, either pre-offer or post-offer. If you have some other questions you want to get answered before you submit the offer to the other agent, do that. But ultimately, a contract will be prepared that is customary in that market and follows that state's real estate license law, and it will be presented to the seller or their agent, and it would become more of a traditional real estate negotiation at that point. If you are successful in getting a contract accepted, it would come back to Roofstock, where we have transaction coordinators, and we can be of assistance along the way throughout, but we have transaction coordinators once you have a binding contract that can assist from the point of contract through closing. So things like helping with where to deliver the earnest money, assisting with coordinating with your lender, with the closing attorney, things of that nature. Those are all things that we can assist with also once you have a property identified and under contract.
Fantastic. So I want to just briefly show everybody what the BYOP landing page looks like and where to submit a property and how to do that, kind of summing up what Leandra was mentioning. So this is kind of the home page after I've clicked buy on roofstock.com. And if I just come over here to learn, and then I think 2, 4, 6, 7 drop down is bring your own property. I click on that, and that's going to bring me to the landing page like Leandra was talking about. So this might look familiar now. And so again, we have the science and proprietary tech backing it up, 30-day money back guarantee, lease up guarantee, and then the free inspection for that property as well. So when we scroll down to how it works, we have highlighted here what markets are currently in operation with the BYOP program. And then as we continue to scroll down, this is where we'll actually submit a property. So you put in your first name, last name, email, telephone, property address, and then the zip code. And this is the subject property, not your physical property wherever you live, but the property that you are interested in submitting to BYOP. Hit submit, and then you'll get a confirmation email that says, yep, this property was received. Then, Leandra, you're actually doing some physical underwriting on that property, right? You and your team?
Correct. Yes, so as soon as you hit submit, my team gets an email basically with that information that you had just submitted, your name, your address, phone number, and the property address that you're interested in purchasing. So once we receive that within 1 business day, we should be able to underwrite the property and send you an email with whether the property was approved for the program or not approved for the program, and a quick reason why it wasn't approved for the program.
Fantastic, fantastic. So again, a really, really, really great opportunity and alternative if you're not finding properties listed on the Roofstock site that meet your criteria. This really takes the lid off all of these markets, MLSs, to have the potential to be able to be invested and get all the benefits for free that Roofstock offers on these other properties. I'm also just noticing, and I think this was a relatively new update, but actually if you're on roofstock.com on the buy section, if we have this learn drop down, we also have the Cloudhouse calculator here as well. So you don't necessarily have to go to roofstock.com/cloudhouse. You can navigate to it from the home page here. So as I jump back over into here, I'm going to be talking really briefly. I said for anyone who's stuck around toward the end, there's going to be a giveaway. And so I'm going to be talking about the Roofstock Academy. And for those of you who might not be familiar with it, it's Roofstock's education side of the business. And so it's comprised of on-demand lectures, one-on-one coaching, and then a suite of tools that we give everyone access to. So we have 50 hours of on-demand lectures. Like I was saying, we have coaching, which is comprised of one-on-one coaching, group coaching, small group coaching, an exclusive Slack channel, and then full access to our single family playbook. And I'll show you some screenshots of that in here in a minute. But right now we have over 375 members. Those members have purchased over 20 million in real estate. And we're constantly taking the pulse of the program. And so we have a 4.94 satisfaction score out of 5. And that's as a result of after every coaching session, we have a survey that gets sent out to see, okay, how was the coach? How was the content of the material? Do you feel like you have a better understanding of it now? So we are quite happy to hang our hat on that satisfaction score. So this is kind of what the program looks like as we dig into it physically. We have kind of high-level chapters, and the program is really designed to be a fairly a la carte style learning, where if you maybe have done 1 or 2 deals, but you're looking for some additional help and maybe scaling your portfolio, we have classes and lectures for you. Don't feel like you have to go bookend to bookend or cover to cover. But also, if you're someone that's never invested in real estate that really wants to learn how to do this the right way from the ground up, start to finish, absolutely, we have a place for you here as well. And if you're someone that, again, has maybe a bigger portfolio, but is looking to scale into some different types of asset class, we have a place for you as well. And so we have these high-level chapters, and then we break things down to a little bit more bite-sized lectures on all kinds of different topics, again, from start to finish, covering all aspects of real estate investing. And if there is a subject that's not covered, we're constantly creating new content to just be as value-based as can be. And so somebody asked me the other day if we had a lecture on something, and I told her we didn't, so I'm in the process of making it right now. We have one-on-one coaching, or coaching as a whole. We have one-on-one coaching, group coaching sessions we do monthly. We do a monthly book club, and we're hoping to get back to being able to do local meetups once COVID has gone by the wayside. And then some other benefits we have for the Academy members is we give everybody a Roofstock Marketplace export Excel function, where basically you can export into Excel every listing that's on Roofstock. We give folks access to the monthly John Burns market data. That's data that Roofstock purchases and then publishes for our Academy members. And then we also have celebration gear and swag, because who doesn't love getting free stuff? So we also have our single family rental playbook, which is comprised of a ton of different tools and resources. We have analytical tools and analysis tools, and we also have some interview templates that we put together for anybody that you would likely want to put on your team. So from agents to CPAs, property managers, insurance reps, attorneys, questionnaires and interview templates on how to screen these folks and talk to folks to determine who might be a good fit for your team. And then lastly, we have a private forum. We use Slack for that. If you're unfamiliar with Slack, it's basically an instant messaging program like Facebook Chat or Microsoft Teams, any one of these. We use Slack. And so it's a great way that the community can communicate amongst themselves, and then you can communicate one-on-one directly with your coach. And so we've really created a really fantastic community and ecosystem where folks, if you want to learn about property managers in Birmingham, Alabama, you post a question to the group thread, and there are tons of people from literally all over the world who are investing all over the country. And so I'm sure that there's somebody who is invested in Birmingham who could recommend a property manager, or recommend a property manager to steer clear from in that regard. So again, really a great community, a lot of active investors, and everybody is running in the same direction, which makes it a lot of fun. So here's the giveaway. We have a discount code for everybody checking out the webinar. It's for $100 off. The program code is BYOP 2021, and that expires next Sunday at midnight. And you can enroll at roofstockacademy.com. And the last piece of this, the kind of last 2 parts of this, is we're actually able to offer cashback incentive for the program. So if you end up purchasing the Academy and then purchase properties through Roofstock, we're able to give you back $500 cash back on that transaction across 5 different transactions for a total of $2,500. So between the coupon code and then the cash back, after about 2 properties, the program pretty much becomes free. And we also offer a lifetime satisfaction guarantee with full refund, no question asked. If you get into the program and it turns out it's not at all what you thought it was, or you can't stand the sound of your coach's voice and you want your money back, no questions asked, as long as you haven't used any of those cashback incentives. Of course, I'm hopeful that everybody will be understanding. And so we have some testimonial from Eugene, who's a mastery member. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions you have about the program. And we also have launched a podcast. It's called The Remote Real Estate Investor. You can check that out wherever it is you listen to podcasts. We're on Google, Spotify, and Apple. A lot of fun. You can leave us a rating, review, or comment on things that you want to hear, different episode ideas. We're constantly open to feedback and new episode topics and suggestions. We just want to provide as much value to everybody as we possibly can. So some additional resources, questions, contact us at byoproofstock.com. You can schedule a call. You can learn more about the Roofstock Academy, and you can also get access to all of the Roofstock webinars that have been done in the past. And again, this will be recorded, so if you don't have a chance to scribble these down, feel free to check out the link after the fact when we email that out to everybody. So I know that was a ton of information. I want to definitely make sure that we have a chance to get to any questions that we have. If we don't have time to get to your question, feel free to reach out to us on that link and those emails on the prior slide, and we will be happy to answer any questions that come up. So Matt, Leandro, I'm going to run through these questions and we're going to fire them off, and we'll see if we've got some really good ones here. So all right, we talked about the BYOP program. So a question from Corey: have you seen issues with renters related to governments banning evictions for non-payments during COVID? So personally, in my personal portfolio, I really haven't seen much of that. I do have one tenant who's not paying right now. That's in California. They lost their job, fell on hard times, so we're working with them to get them all situated and squared away as best we can. Matt, have you seen much in that department with regard to non-payments and COVID stuff?
I haven't, no, not locally, or even in some of the, I guess, more macro level discussions I've been in and seminars I've listened to. I'm hearing that it hasn't been near the impact that people were concerned it would be. Yep. Locally speaking, I talked to the guy we sold our management business to yesterday. He said they were the same percent effective December this year that they were December last year. So
perfect.
Nothing, yeah.
Yeah, I personally haven't seen that big wave that everybody was talking about as a result of the eviction moratorium, but it sounds like, you know, that's been fairly consistent across the board in your experience as well.
Yep.
Awesome. We have a question: how do you define rent ready?
Rent ready is just going to be, a property, based on the listing photos, you should be able to determine if it's livable. Is it something that you could rent to a tenant in its current condition? So we want the vacant properties to be move-in ready so that our property managers, our preferred property managers that we work with, can get a tenant in there right away for the vacant ones.
Perfect. Matt, question for you is: what happens to the inspection expense? Say that 5 times fast. If we don't end up buying the home, generally the buyer pays for it outside of Roofstock. So what happens to it in this instance?
Yeah, you're in luck. If the Roofstock covers the inspection expense, if you walk away from the transaction, we will apply that towards your next transaction. So there's no money lost there. In the event you back out during a contingency period, you've got nothing to risk.
Perfect.
Even if the inspection's already been performed.
Perfect. And then Leandro, we touched on it, but just to circle back, how soon after someone submits a property from Cloudhouse to Roofstock BYOP are they going to get a yay or nay on the guarantees?
Ideally within 1 business day. You know, if you submit a property late Friday night or anytime over the weekend, I likely won't be able to underwrite it until Monday. So you should hear back ideally from me by end of day Monday with a yay or nay. Awesome.
And Kieran is asking, do you include suburbs around these cities for the 14 markets that BYOP is currently in? How are suburbs or kind of secondary, tertiary markets handled?
Typically, they are in most of our markets. It's typically within a 20 to 30 mile radius, because again, we have our local brokers as well as our preferred property managers that typically work in the major cities that have to go out and actually, you know, be able to rent these properties, or, you know, if they had to visit the property, we don't necessarily want them to have to drive an hour out to a more rural part of town. So we really try to focus in the more suburban areas of those markets.
Great. And Alex is asking, how many BYOP submissions are we currently getting per month, and how many are getting approved versus rejected?
Great question.
I
would say I actually had this number and I can't remember.
You're in the hot seat now.
I know, I really am. I'm sorry. I wish I had this ready. Per month, I want to say 30 to 40 per month, and I want to say about half of them get approved and half don't, and only because some of the properties that have come through, they're in such hot markets that they go pending right away, and not necessarily with our buyer. Or I've had some buyers submit a property that wasn't listed for sale. So super important, you want the property to be actively listed for sale, because we have had some submissions come in that the property wasn't even listed for sale. So again, I mean, I have to deny that one. So we did get a handful of those. So it's not to say that we're hard on our approvals, but basically, like we outlined, you really want to pay attention to neighborhood score. Does this property look move-in ready? And we should be able to approve, those types of submissions that come in. So hopefully that answers your question.
Perfect. And then we got a question from Nicolette, and I'm just going to expand on it. The question is, do condos qualify for BYOP? But we can expand that to townhomes as well. Are those eligible?
They do. So condos, townhomes, yes. The important thing about condos is we have to verify with the HOA if they have rent restrictions, because we're not able to, if we're not able to rent out the property, then it's not going to qualify for our program, for what Roofstock does in general. So we want to be able to rent the property, and if there are HOA restrictions against that, then it's not going to qualify for the BYOP program. Townhomes, yes. What's important too is the HOA, the monthly HOA is calculated into all the financial data. So if the HOA is significant, then it's going to pull your cap rate down, and then it makes the property less attractive as an investment.
Great point. Great point. So for the vast majority of the team members, property manager, insurance rep, CPA, everybody is welcome to use their own team, their own personnel if they like, their own lender. What about when it comes to an agent? If somebody is already working with an agent they like, can they utilize the BYOP program and their agent?
Yeah, Leandra, I'll jump in on the agent part if you'd like. You can use the Cloudhouse tool, of course, any of the other tools we offer, the education, all the things we've talked about. As far as the guarantee is concerned, we do have to use one of the vetted agents and the teams we've vetted in that market for the guarantee to apply. So the agents that we have in place, the property managers, and we're going to give you options on things like property manager. We're not going to force you into one specific, but you do have to use a vetted team in the market to get the guarantees that we offer.
Perfect. Question is, how much is the Roofstock fee if we decide to buy the property through the BYOP program? So the Roofstock fee is the same as if you were buying a property that you found on Roofstock to begin with. It's either $500 or 0.5% of the purchase price, whichever one is greater. So on a $100,000 property and less, the fee is $500. On $100,000 and greater, it's just going to be 0.5% of the purchase price. Let's see. So Darren's asking, the good deals move fast. Am I entering this property into BYOP after I'm in contract, or do I bring the property when I'm making the offer?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. So I think there's an ideal and then there's a practical, and they don't always match up. Ideally, you would come in before. That way we can tell you in advance, and you're not wasting your time and an agent's time and the seller's time. If you do get a property under contract and want to bring it in after the fact, I think we can screen it and see if it meets guarantees post-contract. If timing is an issue, we have had that happen before, and we will facilitate it if necessary.
Fantastic. Maria is asking about the Roofstock Academy. Does the coaching also include some hand-holding during the purchase process of specific property? Will we get help with reading inspection reports, negotiating repairs, and our purchase price, et cetera, et cetera? Newbie investor here. Maria, absolutely. It's something I do very regularly with a number of students. And that's really a big focus of the Academy, is to help investors make great investing decisions. So it's very much hand-holding, one-on-one, but on the coaching side, and then as well as on the education side, all the lectures will walk you through the entire transaction process. And then as far as discussing your specific transaction, that's absolutely what the one-on-one coaching is for. And then Anthony was asking, is that a lifetime on the price? Yes, absolutely. It's a one-time fee. There's no upsells, there's no upcharges. All the new lecture material that we add, you'll get access to. All of the new Slack interactions you'll get access to. We just limit the coaching. We advertise it right now with 5 hours of one-on-one coaching as part of the program. And then we also do have a coaching only program if that's more your speed. I think right now it's 5 hours at $750. So that's all on roofstockacademy.com as well. So we're going to take a few more questions here because I think we're getting to the top of the hour here. And so Terry's asking, where do you get the neighborhood and school ratings, and do they correlate with A, B, C, D properties and neighborhoods? Matt, do you want to speak a little bit to the neighborhood score?
Yeah, I have heard some previous podcasts and webinars where you guys have asked some of the more tech-minded people in our company how that's calculated, but it's a very detailed algorithm that I'm not smart enough to speak really intelligently to, but it does bring in a variety of factors, everything from like I said earlier, school scores, crime statistics, all of that's going to play into it, along with a ton of other things. I'm just not 100% sure what. School scores are linked up to, I'm going to say this with 75% confidence, but not 100%. I think is it greatschools.org? Michael, is that right?
I think that's right.
Yeah, we're bringing those in from a third-party provider. I'm just not, I don't want to say 100% certainty that's the one.
Yeah, and then we also recorded a podcast with, I believe it was the head of the data science team, and that's the Remote Real Estate Investor podcast for anybody who missed it during the presentation. But we asked them and really talked and dug into, hey, what's in the neighborhood score? What goes into it? You know, should people be thinking about the ABCD? And it was really interesting. And basically, what we're talking about is there's very it's tough to make a uniform discussion and analysis kind of across the board, across the country. And so that's really what the Roofstock neighborhood score looks to do. And it pulls data from the census tract level. And so that's important to note when you're doing your analysis, and that it's not super granular. If anybody is familiar with the census tract level, it's kind of at the 5,000, 10,000 foot level. And so in markets where things can change block by block or street by street, there's no overstating the value of talking to a local property manager and really getting a handle on, okay, in this neighborhood and this street, this is what we're seeing, in this street, this is what we're seeing. And so again, it's really great for getting a very high level overview of what's going on in that particular market. But again, calling local property managers is something that I do regularly when I'm investigating a new market, so I can really learn the lay of the land.
Yeah, and just to parlay on that, Michael, the neighborhood scores, I consider it to be similar to a cap rate. We're not putting a number on it to try to tell you what's good or bad. It's more of a comparison tool. The same analytics are applied to calculate the neighborhood score on a property that you're looking at in North Carolina versus one you're looking at in Colorado. So it's just a way for you to compare neighborhoods amongst the properties you're considering, not necessarily a good or bad function. And then again, to reiterate what Michael said, we have brought in and vetted these local boots on the ground professionals to assist with this process throughout, so that they can even provide an extra layer of detail on top of what our analytics or what our technology is giving you, that you can ask very specific, even down to the neighborhood type questions too, that can provide professional feedback for you.
Perfect. Question on inspections. Do you do termite and foundation as part of the inspection?
Those are additional reports. You can add them at your request. A traditional inspection report will not come back with termite or foundation. Now, let me back up. If an inspector notes or sees a problem that he feels is related to termite damage, or there is a foundation issue that is visible, they will certainly make notes, take photos, and provide that information to you. But they are not licensed engineers or licensed pest control experts, and they will not represent to be so or provide a thorough report on either of those items, like you would get if you called up a vendor directly and asked for it. But for an additional $7,500 in most markets, you can get someone to go out and do a termite report if you'd like.
Perfect. And just to clarify on that number, because it sounded like you said 7,500, 75 to $100.
To 100, that's right.
It did sound like 7,500. I was like, wow, that's expensive.
Sorry,
that's the best termite inspector in the business.
I would be in the pest control business if that were the case. Not here on this webinar.
Right. Okay, last two questions we'll take, and then we'll let everybody out of here. Terry's asking, are there any title or lien searches in the due diligence? Yeah, so there's a preliminary title report in the due diligence vault on the Roofstock exclusive properties, so you can see any existing title issues or liens on the property. If it's a Roofstock Select property or BYOP property, that will all be done for you during the due diligence phase, and any issues will be brought to light. But Matt, correct me if I'm wrong here, no title company is going to let you close on a dirty title. They're going to make sure it gets cleaned up for you before you close.
Yeah, that's correct. And just, again, full disclosure, if you make an as-is, where-is contract and say you will take time, you can buy anything in any way you'd like if you draft it in such a way, but that's not what we're going to prepare or send out traditionally. It's going to be contingent upon the seller bringing marketable title to closing, and that will be verified by a title expert or attorney prior to you ever signing any paperwork.
Perfect. All right.
I should say. Yeah.
Last question we're going to take. This is from Alex. Leandro, it's for you. When someone submits a BYOP property, if it gets approved, does that person have exclusive access to it on Roofstock for a period of time, or is it posted publicly on Roofstock for anyone to see bid on?
Currently, the link is a private link for the buyer that submitted the property. We have not gone back to making that link public. So currently, I'm going to just go ahead and say that it remains private for you. So long as the property is still active on the MLS, it would remain an active link for you specifically. Anyone that has access to that link will be able to make an offer, but that's only been given to that person that submitted the listing.
Perfect. Okay. James just did a BYOP on his own property, and turns out his cash flow would be terrible. So that's a fun experiment you can do. Here are the links and resources again for everybody who didn't get their questions answered. If you want to follow up and send an email out to byop@roofstock.com, get your questions answered, or schedule a call with an account executive and learn a little bit more about the Roofstock buying process, selling process. Check out roofstockacademy.com for any more questions about Roofstock Academy. And then again, all of the Rooftalk series are on joinrooftalk.com/Rooftalk. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Big thank you to Matt and Leandra for joining us this evening. Happy New Year to everybody, and take care. Happy investing.